Here midnight, please. Good morning, everybody. Right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is the July 18th, 2023 Michigan PR Group. And we've got a roundtable meeting going today, so whatever questions the group has. But before we start that, I want to give out kudos to Mary, our very own Mary from Grosse Pointe. I don't know how many of you read the library marketing blog, Super Library Marketing, but if you don't, you should subscribe. And guess who was featured in yesterday's article? Mary. So congratulations.
Thanks, Kelly. I told Angela, I said, "Oh, you make me sound so smart." That was nice. Thank you.
So I've got a question to start off for the group today. It was a question posed to me from Hope over in Pinckney Library. She wanted to know what kind of stock websites for images that others use. If we use Google Images or if anybody subscribes to a stock image site.
I've used Unsplash, which is a free site. It used to be freer though. They used to have more images for free, and now it looks like they're kind of working with iStock. So you'll get a few free images, and then, it says here, are some others. So I really try not to pay for images because it just gets too expensive.
And then we have in the chat page said that she uses Pexels and Unsplash, and that Laura from MCLS uses Unsplash plus but it's frustrating, but with the new restrictions, but that's what she uses. And I think, and Adam recommends Pixabay. I know I'll oftentimes use Google Images and then do the drop down to make it the common core images, so that can be used. Try to respect the copyright, so. Oh, and Paige also suggests that Canva has a good library that we could use as well. And Stephanie also uses Pixabay. Thank you, everybody, for those. I will pass that along to Hope. And Betsy chimed in that she uses Canva and then Stock Photo Secrets. Oh, that's one I haven't heard of. I'll have to check that one out. And that Megan also uses Canva. And that is the beauty of Canva, one of the other beauties of Canva. Okay, so that was my question to start off. So I guess my next question is, how's summer reading going for everybody? We're in the heart of it now. I know last month everybody was saying their signups were way up, and Southfield is included. We're up over 100% from last year, so which last year was way down. So
yeah, we've had a lot of great signups so far, and one of our post kickoff party events, one of them had just a huge crowd to the point where we're trying to think about how we're going to manage crowd control at other events this summer, because we wound up for Baffling Bill, the magician, with a line like stretched through the library of people like ready to see him, at least 200 people, which is a little bit beyond our capacity. So we're just kind of thinking about how, I feel like our marketing efforts have done their job. And so now how are we going to manage that going forward?
Yeah, that is a issue, a good problem to have, but still a problem. And Grace put up that their teen librarian said they had 175 people to a Pokemon hangout on Saturday. That's incredible. So especially as I know Grace happens to be from Shelby Township, so that's a pretty, that's a big crowd for you're not the biggest library, you're not the smallest either, but
Yeah, I'm new there. Hi, everyone. I'm Grace. Kelly invited me to this, and the library, the new building is double in size what the old building was, but it's still quite small. And so to have 175 people show up was like amazing.
and Grace Page is asking the question in the chat, how are you getting so many teens in? What was your magic? Let us repeat it to elsewhere.
I think just the fact that like Pokemon is still such a big thing with so many people, so many ages. I grew up in like the original era of Pokemon in the 90s, and it's just continued. And then we had a local what is it? Authorized Pokemon dealer come in with a bunch of door prizes, and we think the event got shared in some parent Facebook groups, and that's what blew up our numbers.
Awesome. So how's summer reading going for everybody else?
Summer reading is going good for St. Clair Shores. We're just finishing up some of our adult programs throughout the next couple weeks, and we have Touch a Truck, which is a big program where we usually have close to 400 people come out for. And this year we're including the pool that is right behind the library as an option for attendees.
I wish you good weather for that day. So, but Touch a Trucks programs they're the cutest. So I love the little kids up with the huge trucks.
It's going pretty well at Brandon Township as well. Our registration is through the roof as far as just registration for summer reading. Our program registration is up. This is the first time in at least post-COVID that we're doing like a community reading goal. And for every, sorry, that's my cat. We want to plant 5 trees in our community. Right now, our goal, like we've only reached the goal of planting 2 trees. So that's kind of, I don't want to say disappointing thing, but off to a slow start as people turning in their reading logs and their reading hours.
Well, hopefully it's, the deadline at the end is the thing that get people to turn it all in then.
Right. We do bingo as well. And yeah, that last like week and a half, we get slammed with everyone turning in their stuff. So we're still hopeful that we're going to meet our goal, but.
I think you can do it. I believe in your community. How's summer reading going for everybody else? Sorry about that. That's my dog with the cone of shame on trying to scratch that off in the background.
We tried something new this year. As far as our events go, we had a big kickoff event, and usually we would do another kickoff event at our branch, sort of like a week after. This year we tried to do a midsummer party instead, so we did that last week at our branch as a way to kind of get people engaged throughout the summer. And we usually see a drop off in July, so we wanted to make sure that we were keeping people engaged with the summer reading program and keeping them coming into the library. And that event went over really well. We had a huge turnout and lots of excitement, and it was fun to see because we've had some difficulties at our main library, making sure that we're reaching like our residents. A lot of people that we're seeing coming back to events post-pandemic are people who are willing to drive a lot further for things. So we're seeing people come from other neighboring communities a lot more. But at the branch here, we saw a lot of people from the community who are like, oh, I saw my neighbors out walking and I decided to follow them here, which was kind of a fun thing, a little bit different in that smaller community too. So that was interesting.
Great. I love the neighbors letting other neighbors know about it, whether it's following them there or telling them. That is, if we can get that magic sauce, you know, out there, all library events would be packed.
Word of mouth is definitely huge. And in that community, they saw us setting up, I had several people mention that they saw us setting up, you know, parts of the program, you know, that morning, and throughout the day they saw us putting up the bounce house and bringing out the petting zoo. And so as these different elements came together, excitement kind of built throughout the day for members of that community. And we had a Facebook event for it too, which went over pretty well. Sometimes those are kind of hit and miss, I think, but this one did well.
All right, glad to hear summer readings going well for everybody. So I'll open it up for who else has a question for the group today? What's on people's minds today?
So I was curious what people are doing for September for library card sign-up month. If anyone had some different ideas of things that, you know, their library is doing.
I'm not doing this year, but I was reading on the programming librarian some different ideas, and one of the ones I want to try next year is a refer a friend. So if you have a library card, you know someone who doesn't have a library card, you know, getting them to come in and then entering both of them into a raffle to win some like really nice prize or something. I think if I had more time, I'm very new to my role, I would try to do that, but that's a next year option for me at least.
Grace, did you see that on Facebook?
I think it was Facebook or
Yeah.
Programming Librarian. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's been
that
a
was my
crazy couple of
question. So I
weeks.
thought I'd bring it to the group here too.
Yeah.
Well, this could be a 2024 project because we're in the midst of it now, but it's taken a lot of planning. We are actually doing a library card design contest, and we launched that on May 1st. We had it open through the end of June, and we had really nice submissions. We had about 20 kid submissions and about 15 adult submissions, which was perfect because we chose the top 5 finalists from each one. And you can even go on to southfieldlibrary.org at the moment and vote if you want for what our next library card is going to look like, because we've had the same design for 20 years and it's quite boring design. But we wanted to make sure we had finalists that we were good with no matter which one it is, because I didn't want a Bodie McBoatface library card coming out there. So voting is open now through the end of next week, and then on September 10th we're throwing a big 20th anniversary event, and the winner is going to be announced then with the cards ready for people to be able to check out that day. Okay, and Betsy's having some tech issues, but she said they've created Rochester Hills Public Library Revealed, a little fun showcase that features all of the lesser known things your library card can get you. They're announcing it in the fall newsletter, centering around centering a September display around it. And then from here on out, it'll be a regular feature in their monthly newsletters and up on social media. Ooh, that's a really cool idea, because there is so much. I'm gonna have to make sure I subscribe to get your monthly newsletters there to see what you're highlighting, because it is so much more than books. Of course, that we all know that, preaching to the choir here. And then Riley from Dearborn put into the chat, slightly more related to our last conversation topic. Hey, that's fine. We bounce back and forth. They had great attendance at their kids' concert with Mrs. Beverly. And she was told that many of the kids, it was their first time ever experiencing live music. Many of these families were from refugee families. And most of the marketing for it was word of mouth from youth librarians, with a little bit of social media and a Facebook event post and an Instagram story reminder the day of. That is wonderful. That had to have been just cool to watch the kids that day if you were there. I'm not sure if Riley, you were there or just heard about it, but hearing kids and music is always a great mix, especially if it's their first time hearing live music.
For library card sign up month, we are also doing a library card design contest, so that's exciting. We're also, this is very labor intensive, and I'd love to know if anybody has a better way of doing this, but we have a list that we use for our print newsletter mailing of every residence in Bloomfield Township. And our circulation staff are slowly and painstakingly going through to see which addresses are not associated with an account in our ILS. And we would like to send postcards to those addresses that don't have a single library card. I don't know how to engineer this so it could be done in a more efficient way, other than they're literally looking up like everything. Depending on how many total addresses without library card accounts we come up with, we will probably do some percentage, maybe 25% of those for a postcard mailing campaign, and see how well that works to bring in new library card accounts before committing the time and money to sending postcards to the entire list. Has anybody done anything similar to that before? We use Sierra.
Catherine, do you guys have Orange Boy Savannah?
Yes, we do. Is there a way that knows?
They can help you do that. We use Savannah also, Victoria mentioned, and we did a mailing with them, and they identified the households in our service area that did not have library cards. And we targeted an area where there was like a bigger number of non-card holders, and we had an excellent response, and we really focused on the fact that we're fine free. And we kind of, I think it's really important, depending on who you're targeting, to have a key message that's going to be really like get them to come in. And we focused towards families, and they did all the work as far as creating the postcards and mailing them and getting the list and everything. We sent 2 postcards, and I mean, it was amazing the response we got. So I just ask your account person and just say, I'm really interested in doing something like this. And I mean, it's not for free, but I think we spent, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 for the whole thing. And we worked with them on the copy, but they did all the printing and the mailing, and then they give you your results. I mean, they track everything so you can see what kind of results you have. And I presented those results to our board, and I mean, it was really quite remarkable. I've been doing marketing for like 500 years. And in the old days, that's all we did was direct mail. I mean, that was it. You didn't have any other choice. And it was always very effective. Well, then direct mail was like, oh, that's old fashioned. We're not going to do that anymore. There's email now and social media and blah, blah, blah. And so direct mail, it still really works, especially if you have a targeted audience and you target your message. And I mean, we were really kind of blown away with the results. So I would highly recommend that.
Thank you. That's helpful. I feel like we've already started our homegrown version of this. I don't know that we'll be able to use Savannah for it this time around, but perhaps for a future campaign.
Yeah, I mean, you could even just chat with them about it and get, tell them what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish. They might have some suggestions even.
Okay.
They're
Thank you.
they're really good at being very helpful. So it's worth a conversation.
A couple of years ago, I worked at a really rural library and we were doing a community assessment survey in a post-COVID like environment. And we did a postcard mailer and we used a QR code on the mailer because it was so rural. Many of our patrons lived on the fringes of the district, like 75 miles away from the actual building. So it was great that they could access like the website and, get an idea of what we were trying to accomplish from home because we understood there's no public transportation for them and some of them are elderly. So I agree a lot with what Mary was saying about like who's your target audience and what do you want to accomplish. So that was part of our decision to use a QR code.
Yeah, we
I
used a
guess-
QR code too, Grace. And we had a landing page and I mean, we really just, anyway, I mean, I don't want to talk all the time, but anyway, it was really impactful.
No, that's really helpful information. I keep thinking about, it's pretty easy to figure out what percentage of your service population has a library card, right? Like whether it's 50%, 70%, whatever it is. But it's a lot harder, I think, to know like how many entire residences are you missing? How many households just have one card that they use for everybody in the household? So I don't know if anybody's done any real studies of that, thinking about library card sign up month and like who do you target? Are you trying to target people who already use the library that maybe then they could just make sure they get a card for each one of their kids? Or are you trying to get people who are complete non-users?
A lot of our success was re-engaging with people who'd had a card and then just haven't used it, so it's much easier to get someone to use more services in the library than to get a brand new card user. So if they know about you and they're like, oh yeah, the library, I kind of forgot about that. So we really worked on re-engaging previous, like lapsed card holders or whatever we want to call them, to get them re-engaged.
Yeah, to that end, we're working on part of our Orange Boys Savannah messaging. We're doing an anniversary email for library card holders. So on their library card holding anniversary, they're going to receive an email to come into the library and pick up a free gift to celebrate their anniversary. We'll have a little chest of things at the desk, a bunch of like library swag and leftovers from outreach events that we only have a few of, so we can't really bring them, and all those fun odds and ends are going to get thrown into some chests. And I'm thinking we'll probably launch that in September, just kind of happenstance unintentionally because it keeps getting pushed back. But well, we can call it a library card sign up month initiative. More about that re-engagement though, because that has been a bigger focus for us.
Whenever you can, get double duty out of something that has got pushed back. Oh, hey, now it's library card sign up. All the better. And Betsy also put into chat that they're aiming for higher engagement with the patrons that already have a card and hoping for more attendance at the programs and events. So those are all very good goals. I think, yeah, just figuring out what the toughest part is, figuring out what your goal is, which audience to target, and then how to try to get to them, whether it's the lapsed card holders, new card holders, or higher engagement with patrons that already have a card, because it's all slightly different. We have the beauty and the curse of that we market to everybody. and have something for everybody. All right, anyone else have any other suggestions for Stephanie about September and library card sign up? Okay, well, I think we exhausted the group's ideas at the moment, so check back next month and we might have more. All right, so the floor is open again. Who's got a question for the group?
I was wondering if anybody's doing anything with Threads yet.
Watching and waiting.
I opened an account for the library and I think I posted 3 things, but it hasn't gotten any engagement or anything. So I don't know. I just opened it just because, just for the heck of it. But I'm not spending a lot of time on it, just we'll see. I'm just kind of like Victoria just said, watching and waiting, kind of see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd echo that as well. We claimed it to make sure nobody else gets a domain, not that we're highly sought after domains, but still. Yeah, with all the spoofing and spamming, rather have us claim it. But yeah, we made, I think, 2 posts and
Good point.
I'll follow you, Kelly, if you'll follow me.
yep. Sounds good to me.
Okay, I'll go and do that.
Yeah.
Grace put in that Shelby Township, all the social media goes through the communications department and they're not jumping on Threads right now, at least. Yeah, I'd encourage you, if you have an Instagram account, at least claim your Threads account just to be safe. But yeah, beyond that, admittedly, we don't do much on Twitter either, so.
Yeah, we stopped doing anything on Twitter. We paused last November and we haven't returned. We've lost a lot of followers just by nature of people leaving the site, so.
Yeah, Twitter for us is the only channel where we're losing followers. Every place else we're gaining. And I think it's just because of the craziness that's going on there. People are just like saying the heck with it, so we're still hanging in there with Twitter, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
It's unfortunate because it was a good place to reach local news sites, especially, but that was all we were basically reaching. And sometimes occasionally our teachers in the district, but wasn't the right return for us.
Yeah, a lot of authors are on Twitter too. But
Authors are on Twitter.
Yeah.
One thing I will just say about it, the Library of Michigan hasn't really made a decision yet about what we want to do with it, but it has been added as a authorized social media technology for any state of Michigan agency. So the state has at least looked at it as a possible tool for anybody within state government to use. So if people are looking for like some sort of guidance as far as like somebody in a higher level using it, the state of Michigan has made it so that like MDOT, Department of Education, anybody like that has the ability to request use of it. So, like I said, with us though at LM, we'll see what happens if we decide to do it or not, but we have been at least given the go ahead. If we want to, we can.
Good to know that the state's authorizing it. Question, is the state have a stance on TikTok? I'm just curious.
I believe they have said that nobody is to be using it.
Huh.
And I can
Hmm.
see that I've got the list of the internal list of what is authorized, of what people can and can't use. And it's on here. So Buzzsprout, which is for podcast posting or hosting, Facebook, Flickr, Instagram, iTunes, LinkedIn, Medium, Nextdoor, Pinterest, SoundCloud, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. That is all that we're authorized to use. And then non-authorized ones, let me see. Yeah, TikTok was, as of March 2022, kind of banned from use.
I will segue, although Southfield also banned Twitter, or sorry, TikTok, but actually coming up in our September meeting, I just set it up this morning, got finalized this morning, I should say, Storm from Fowlerville, who they have a great TikTok account, is going to come give the presentation that she delivered at MLA to our group. So that I think is September the 18th. But even those, I'm still looking forward, even though we can't use TikTok, to getting some of the tips that maybe we can use on some of the other platforms. And then Laura mentioned that MCLS has lost a lot of Twitter followers in the shakeup. And yeah, I think that has to do a lot with the platform. We're doing the same. Every other, as Mary said, every other one's gaining in Twitter. Every month we lose followers, which I think is new more with Twitter than anything else. So yeah. And Riley's mentioned they're not sure how long they'll keep up with Twitter as the engagement's low. And well, who knows what Twitter's up to nowadays. And that Grace mentioned that there is a librarian ASMR channel on SoundCloud. So have to check that out. Oh, and sorry, Laura, you're from Mel, not MCLS, but on this regard, so sorry
It's kind
about
of both, but yeah, because I work for MCLS, but I do the Mel social media, and
okay.
we lost a ton. I mean, it evened out. We plummeted, and then it kind of evened out, and it started to drift off again. So I think that's just the way Twitter's going to go. Just from kind of watching what's happening on there, it feels like the people there, like there's a Venn diagram, and like, yeah, it's a circle. I don't know. So yeah, it's not feeling like we're going to gain a lot of followers there, and I mean, we get some engagement, but not what we were getting before.
It's definitely interesting just from the macro level to see how much a social network can change and so quickly.
Well, and it's been interesting too, because I have noticed an increasing amount of engagement on Facebook in certain ways too. So that's been interesting to kind of see that, because for a while we weren't really getting a lot of engagement on Facebook, and that seems to be a little bit on the uptick, which surprised me too, because I mean, Facebook is can be a little bit of a cesspool sometimes too. So that's been kind of nice to see that, engagement go up a little bit.
How's it going for everyone else on social media nowadays? Threads, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Anyone having any good successes? Say it's a mini success, but I last week ran into a really, really cute little girl who just got her first library card, and mom let me take a picture of her standing next to a statue at the library. I posted up yesterday, and we have like 60 likes on it because she's got the biggest, cutest little smile on her face.
I'm wondering about LinkedIn. Is anybody having success or using LinkedIn at all for their library?
We use LinkedIn, but we're primarily using it just to promote news stories about the library, accomplishments, and then new staff members that we have join or features of staff members. That's basically all we seem to get engagement on. So I've kind of boiled it down to just posts about those things. I've tried posting, some of our business and entrepreneurial resources, and they don't seem to get engagement yet. So I'm waiting until we can kind of break in more into our Chamber of Commerce crowd and get them to follow us. We're trying to build that up a little bit more in our relationship with them. So
I've had the same experience, Victoria, just either news items or staff announcements or board, like people stuff. But the services, targeted services to businesses, it's been pretty meager, I would say. So it's a good idea though to try and engage more through the chamber,
Yeah,
more
it was one of our
business
strategic
involved.
initiative items for this year. We've been working on doing more work with them, and then also building up more of our services for businesses and entrepreneurs in the area. So I'm kind of waiting for people to work on those initiatives and kind of wrap things up with that, and then I can swoop in there and see how it goes with marketing.
Adam just put in the chat, if you haven't noticed, that Library Michigan staff got 115 likes on Facebook, and I'm actually clicking on the link now. So
Yeah, that was for our 195th anniversary, and we decided to recreate a photo from
oh, cool.
in the Capitol, when the library had been in the Capitol, and yeah, it made it around. It didn't make it as much as the we just had the a few years ago we did the libraries. So we took a cover of a Cranberries album and recreated that. And that one I think got a little bit more traction to it. But that this is probably one of the more recent ones that got quite a bit out of it.
Well, I just gave you another like, so you can
Excellent.
there. And I got a thumbs up for my 10-year-old who's sitting here next to me. Hi. Anyone else have a question for this group on this fine summer day?
I was wondering, I'm working on a lot right now, so I'm more future planning. We're in the midst of a website redesign, so we'll stay tuned. I think December timeframe, we're looking at launching that alongside a new event calendar and a new catalog system. So I'm keeping busy, but I'm looking at doing a crisis communications plan as kind of a fall winter project, and I'm curious to know if any other libraries have examples of those that they'd be willing to share if you've completed that process.
I know for us, it's always on the, that would be good to do one day, but has never made it to the top of the list yet. Circling back to our first question, sorry, I don't have anything more in crisis. We'll maybe jump back to that as we do, but Laura put in chat that the novelty pictures, like the ones I mentioned of the child with the card or the one Adam shared, are always likely to catch attention. And it's, if possible, it's great to use real photos instead of the stock ones. Yep. And I can understand, not as easy for Mel to do that as it is for, those of us that have patrons in the building.
At Mel, this is kind of a weird thing maybe, but have you guys ever reached out to public libraries and put out a call to like, hey, if you've got patrons who are really into Mel, would they be willing to share their, because I know we
I
have
beg.
Okay.
I mean, by the ways that I visited, yes, I haven't made like a general call, but we do it like, I don't know if you read Heather's recent Mel Minute. She was asking like if people have things to share, she was hoping that they would email her and share different ways that they're using Mel. Yes, we would love to have any of that. Just because we like, real stories a lot of times are better than the theoretical things that we share.
Mhm.
But yeah, we haven't received a lot of that. I did when I had a few people who completed Melmaven send me a oh, you did, Grace, amazing. That's so great. I'm looking forward to hearing those. When people finish their Melmaven, they send us pictures with their certificate, and I use those in our social media. So if you have anyone on your staff who's done that, I love to share those. But yeah, anything that you have, success stories, any of that kind of stuff.
Sophia. Sophia. No.
I would love to have that. So yeah.
All right. I don't work frontline, but I know one patron who might be willing to share their
Yes,
story.
definitely.
So,
Yeah.
we'll see if
Yeah.
I can reach
I'll
out
put
to
an
them.
email for you in the chat that you can send it to.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely use it because man, we love that stuff.
Mel? I was gonna say, I can maybe ask, I know we have a couple of patrons that just love Mel.
Yeah, I would love to hear it. And especially, we hear these stories here and there about, someone calling the library and getting help and then, having some GED success or, I hear these sort of random pieces and parts, but I would love to have those stories because there's so much power in what's available in Mel. And when people discover it, they're kind of shocked most of the time. So I like to have those stories and especially the success stories and people who are using it a lot for all kinds of things. Last night, somebody was complaining on so the Atlantic, they'll post their story and then when you click on it, right, like it takes you to a paywall. But like Mel has the entire Atlantic monthly every month free, so you can read all those stories. And somebody said, check your local library, like everything that they have is free and they have digital subscriptions. I'm like, yes, thank you for saying that out loud, because I evangelize, right, that we have so much free that people don't know. Like you can read People magazine every week. It's entirely free, whatever it is that you're interested in, it's likely to be available and you don't really have to leave your house if it's more convenient to read it online. So yeah.
I will say personally, we've had success in my household with my 10-year-old here who's, finding we get book 1 and 2 of a series and get book 3 or 4. And like, wait, we gotta continue this series.
That happened to a colleague of mine during COVID. I was still a school librarian at that time. She's like, I can't believe number 3 is here for free. I'm like, yes, it is.
Yeah, once you're and sometimes even it's checked out from my library and it'd be quicker to get it from Mel than it is to wait for, the return to somebody had just checked it out.
Yep. You can do that through Melcat and sometimes even the Mel ebooks have them, which is great. A lot of great kids things. So yeah.
Anyone else welcome Jeff, and anyone else have any questions for the group today?
Well, one thing I am just kind of a little bit curious about, we just wrapped up the Notable Books tour in June, and I don't know how many people here were either hosting. Yeah, I know you, Kelly. I was hoping to get to yours, but I didn't get a chance to go to it. But for anybody who did host an author, or if even if you didn't, but did do things related to the program, I know we're going to be having 2 feedback sessions coming up, but I think in August, Mindy was going to send out the meeting request for those. But if there's anybody who did have some feedback kind of while we're just having wrapped up, it'd be cool to kind of hear what people's thoughts are as far as either the tour itself, things related to the program this year, anything like that.
But I'll say I'm a big fan of the program. Every January when the list comes out, I'm like the kid at the candy store, like writing down, oh, I read that one already, but oh, I hadn't heard of that one. And adding, I always add at least a couple to my to read list. So, and actually, one of my favorite authors I discovered from a Mel list was I think it's Karen Dion. She writes about the Upper Peninsula.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
Marsh King's daughter.
Which is supposed to be coming out on film. They're done filming it, but they just haven't gotten a release date of when that's going to be out.
Well, I love the book. So, and
Yes,
her
yeah.
the second, her other one too, the sister one. So,
Oh yeah, Wicked Sister.
yes.
Yep.
And, you know, I think the tour is a great idea to just get authors out and around, and we loved our author. So we, you know, we had about 40 people show up, which lately we have not had anybody show up for authors. So that was a good turnout for us. And for our case, people were continuing to speak 45 minutes later after the library closed in the parking lot, because I actually ran into an issue and got out of work late that night. And I'm like, you're still talking in the parking lot? Perfect.
Well, I have to give a little bit of a shout out to the Millington Library, because not only did they use many of the titles that were on the list for their book club, but they were able to host one of the authors, and then another one was not that far away, that they drove like 6 or 8 members of the group to Frankenmuth to hear one of the other authors speak. So they were able to make a bit of a slight mini tour of it themselves, just for their library patrons, which was kind of a neat thing. Anybody else? Or do we do it absolutely perfect and nobody has any any constructive criticism at all?
I'll apologize for our part. I think we had somewhat smaller attendance than we're used to seeing out here in West Bloomfield, because we do have a community of readers and we do see a good return usually on our author talks. But it kind of like slipped between our usual communication cycles. So I didn't have a super long time work that wasn't included in our newsletter, in our print copy of our newsletter, in our print program guides. So it was basically just on social media and in our e-newsletters, which I don't think was necessarily the right audience for the book that we had come out and talk with our community. So we'll try to do better next year and see what we can do. But
well, regardless, everybody should be applying next year, because and the other thing is that if you have either authors that you think who published something this year that should get on next year's list, or if you know them personally, who published something else this year, make sure you get that submitted, because I know today the committee is meeting, I think, for the first time in person, and then over the next few months they will be narrowing down the several hundred titles that they have to the 20. So it's best to get that in now and not come October, November, because by then they'll usually have already picked at least 15 of the 20 titles by that point.
Good tips for those of us that know any local authors for submitting. And I give that committee credit. I know, because to whittle down that many books to the top 20, and I'm sure there's always a fight at the end of, you know, this one versus this one, you know, some are easy to whittle out and some are like, absolutely, it's on the list, but it's all those in between ones that I give everybody on that committee credit for.
Well, and we're also in the process of filming the author conversation videos that are sort of the companion to all of that. And so we'll be sharing those on our social media platforms, probably starting in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And so if you're looking for free content or just something in order to highlight, whether it's in a newsletter or on your own accounts, feel free to use those, because it's sort of like those behind the scenes DVD conversations that you see with different people, and so it'll add more, especially then you don't have to do the work for it.
I'll keep a lookout for those. Anyone else have any questions for the group today? All right, if not, thank you everybody for attending today. Our next meeting will be up on, it's like it's August the 15th, so we'll be back for another roundtable discussion then. So hopefully we'll have more about summer reading and anything more on library card sign up and anything else that comes to mind for the group. So thank you everybody for attending today and wish everybody good rest of the day and summer reading programs here.